listening and enjoy the show.
And welcome to this very special edition of the Power Pro Wrestling Podcast. This is Robert Red, and I'm going to be joined by a very special guest here for the second time is my friend Kevin. How you doing, Kev?
Hey, it's the men's front and the women's delight. The pleasure is all yours. Thank you.
As always, well, thank you for coming on the show today, Kev. And on today's show, we're going to be talking about which North American title is the most prestigious. Should wrestling be more action-based or story-based? And will WrestleMania be successful despite its lackluster build? Possible yes, possible no. Oh, and I just want to remind you guys that we do have a Patreon page that you can support this podcast. It's patreon.com/PPWP. But since this is our first segment, Kevin, I want to start with you. And from Raw from this past week, I wanted to kind of get your favorite moment from Raw. And it can be a segment, match, just whatever. So what was kind of your favorite moment from Raw this past week?
Hands down, out of all the segments, it definitely wasn't R-Truth on commentary the first two matches, but Paul Heyman's promo is just untouchable. It has sold me to want to watch WrestleMania 31 on its own. His promos are just unbelievable.
Yeah, I agree. Paul Heyman is a very good promo guy. There's kind of three things that I did enjoy from this last week's Raw. That was March 2nd's Raw. The whole Jon Stewart thing with Seth Rollins, that interaction, and then kind of at the end, Randy Orton coming out and Jon Stewart kicking Seth Rollins in the gonads. The return of AJ Lee, which I know you and me are both big AJ Lee fans to help Paige. I enjoy that as well. And just the whole Intercontinental title thing that's been going on throughout the last couple of weeks to make the title more prestigious. I love that. So that was kind of my favorite moments from this last week's Raw. Now, in terms of SmackDown, Kevo, what do you feel was the best moments of SmackDown this past week?
To me, the best moment was the WWE building the Intercontinental Championship match at WrestleMania. They're doing a great job, in my opinion, on making this interesting again, making the title worthwhile. And I think this is going to be an incredible match at WrestleMania. But talking about SmackDown, I think they're doing a great job in promoting the guys that will be involved in the match and just keeping it interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I do agree. Like, even on SmackDown, just what happened, like the main event with Dolph Ziggler and Ambrose teaming to take on Luke Harper, and I believe it was Bad News Barrett. And just the match itself was good, but then what happened after the match, R-Truth getting the belt, and then Daniel Bryan handing the belt, and then Stardust coming out and attack them. Just everything about the Intercontinental title, what they've been doing on TV now, it's just been entertaining, especially like you mentioned with R-Truth. His commentary, I've just been finding is hilarious. It's been funny.
But
now,
I'm afraid I've got some bad news, and that was the worst Bad News Barrett impression ever. But
you'll need to try again.
But the Divas title match was absolutely changed the channel. It was terrible.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, you would figure AJ and Brie would have a good match. It's just, I think Brie, like we've discussed off the podcast, is just baby focused, worried about being a mom. So I don't think it was as good of his match as it could have been. But we do have a few moments left, or a few minutes left. So anything about Impact that you want to mention? That was your favorite moment or segment or anything like that?
The only thing that I wish I could see more of Impact. Unfortunately, I don't have the opportunity to have Destination America, and I really enjoyed. As a matter of fact, we went to a house show, Robert, a little over a year ago when TNA came to our town, and Samoa Joe, who is no longer with the company, from my understanding, put on a great match. He was the top babyface of the event, and this is something I miss about TNA and Impact Wrestling as a show, is just drawing me in to watch it. That's something they need to work on, in my opinion.
Yeah. Well, I did enjoy, in terms of the show this past week, I did enjoy the whole three-way match. They had Kurt Angle, Bobby Roode and Eric Young for number one contendership to face Lashley here in the next few weeks for the TNA World Championship. So I enjoyed Kurt Angle winning it, and that's setting up for a very good potential match between him and Bobby Lashley. Because Bobby Lashley, I feel he's not a great talker, but dude can wrestle. He is very technically sound, and being there with Kurt Angle, it has match of the year potential written all over it. But that's all the time we have left. We're going to take a short commercial break, and we'll be back right after this. Hi guys, this is Robert Red. I'm the host of the Power of Pro Wrestling podcast, the podcast by wrestling fans for wrestling fans. Our podcast is currently looking for sponsors, so if you or your business would like to show your support, you can do so by going on YouTube or by emailing me at jonesprowrestling@gmail.com. So sit back, enjoy the show, and thanks. Hi guys, this is Robert Red, the host of the Power of Pro Wrestling podcast, and I've got some great news for you. Our podcast is now available on YouTube. You can listen to past and present episodes of my podcast on my channel, along with donating to the show. Check it out today at youtube.com/user/TheRobertRed. Thank you.
Hey, this is Kevin Lancaster, and you're listening to the Power of Pro Wrestling Podcast.
And welcome back to the Power Pro Wrestling Podcast. I'm still joined by my friend Kevin. You still doing good, Kevin?
I am fantastic. Thank you for asking.
Well, awesome. Well, this is the second segment of our show, and it's our discussion portion of the podcast. So we're going to kick it off with our first question. Now, heavyweight titles are considered to be the best title of a company. And I wanted to kind of get your thoughts, Kevo, of what North American title that you feel is the most prestigious. Now, Al, do you feel the WWE World Heavyweight title right now is the most prestigious title? Do you feel the TNA World Heavyweight title, which is currently held by Lashley? Or do you feel like the Ring of Honor title is the most prestigious that's held by Jay Briscoe? And kind of give me what you feel is the most prestigious title, and kind of give me a response of why you believe it's the most prestigious title.
Are we including the Divas title, or I'm just kidding? In my opinion, the WWE World Heavyweight Championship right now is the most prestigious because the build-up to WrestleMania. We're going back to WrestleMania, but that's the big thing right now, is the World Heavyweight title match with Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns. The title itself is just unbelievable. And the champion, Brock Lesnar, even though he's not been on TV this past year very much, he brings interest into wanting to see the world title on the line during a match, no matter who his opponent is. That triple threat match at Royal Rumble was one of the greatest matches of all time, in my opinion, especially including Brock Lesnar. But the WWE title, to me, in my opinion, Robert, is the most prestigious right now.
Yeah. Now, I could almost agree with you because WWE is considered the penultimate. So, ideally, the WWE World Heavyweight title should be the most prestigious. But it's for the simple fact of Brock Lesnar has not been defending the title. So, to me, that takes away the prestige of the championship. He won it back in August against John Cena. He defended it in September the next month, which, ideally, that's what he should have did anyway. He should have been defending the title at least once a month. But he waited after September till January for his next title defense. So to me, that kind of takes away the prestige of the title, that the champion is not defending the title every month at least. Now, in terms of TNA and the TNA World Heavyweight Championship, Bobby Lashley, I do feel is a great champion, but I don't feel the title is very prestigious because I feel they changed the belt way too often, that the champion doesn't have his run as champion. And so I don't feel the title as prestigious as it could be because they do have a good champion right now. In terms of the Ring of Honor World Heavyweight title, Jay Briscoe as a champion, and he's not your prototypical champion, but Ring of Honor is not your prototypical wrestling company either. They are more about performance, which we're going to get into in our next topic. So, and him defending the title, he has a lot of title defenses where, like I said, Brock Lesnar didn't. So I would almost argue that the Ring of Honor title has more prestige than the other two titles just because it's been defended more. Now, granted, I've talked about this in the previous podcast. I don't feel the title should be defended every time, but it does need to be defended quite frequently. But we're going to move on to our second topic, and since I mentioned about Jay Briscoe and Ring of Honor being a very action-based company, WWE is more story-based. So I wanted to kind of get your thoughts, Kevo, of should pro wrestling be more wrestling-based, meaning more action-based, or should it be more story-based? And kind of tell me what's the reasoning behind your answer.
Oh, this is a tough one for me because to make pro wrestling interesting, you have to have a story. You can't, in my opinion, sure, it's interesting and it's great to see two athletes go out there and give an unbelievable match. But to sell the story, the pay-per-view, the event, the next match, the feud itself, you have to have a story. You have to draw people in, captivate them, make them want to come back for more. So, yes, you have to have athleticism. You want a good match. That's the end be-all. You have to have a good match. But you also have to draw them into that match, and that would be the story. So you have to kind of have it both ways. And WWE does lack in the athleticism sometimes, but their stories, if it's a good story, that is, the WWE is the icing on the cake for that.
Yeah, and I agree with everything you just said, Ed, but to kind of really answer the question, I do feel that you do need to be more story-based because as with the story, that's the whole reason why. It gives purpose to the action inside the ring. Like you did mention, the pin ultimate result is what happens in the ring. So you do have to have a good match. But you have to have a reason for that match going on. Like you mentioned, the story that draws people in, that gets people emotionally invested in the match. Otherwise, it's just two guys fighting it out, and why should I care? So the story does need to be story heavy, but you can't lack on the athleticism like you mentioned. And to even go outside of pro wrestling, I don't know how many of our listeners are a fan of the Transformers movies, but a lot of the fans, that's the criticism of the Michael Bay Transformers movies, they're just bang, 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 shotgun, it's all action, there's no story, so there's no purpose for the fighting. What are they fighting for? Or are they fighting for a championship? Is there a feud going on, and what is that feud? So, I mean, like I said, that just goes to intensify, and I feel it's the icing on the cake is the story. The action is the cake, and cake is good by itself, but without icing...
Why'd you have to bring up cake? Why?
I know, I'm just making you hungry over here, right? Hey, I'm getting hungry too. I haven't had breakfast, so... Oh, obviously. But like I was saying, the story is the icing on the cake. It makes the cake taste that much better. So I do feel the story is more important than the action. And since we keep mentioning about WrestleMania, our last question, and you kind of brought this up to me, so I'm going to kind of let you start off. And it is, will WrestleMania be successful despite its lackluster build? So, since you brought this up, Kevin, I'm going to let you spearhead it and kind of give me your thoughts. Do you think WrestleMania is going to be successful despite its lackluster build, especially with the world title match between Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar?
First of all, I don't want to disrespect any listener listening to your podcast, but the internet wrestling community, not everyone involved, but for the majority of the members of the internet wrestling community, they're never going to be satisfied. No matter who is champion, who is the next big thing, they want to gripe and complain about something and someone. That's their thing. But in my opinion, if you ask them and they told you the truth, they're going to watch WrestleMania 31 no matter what. If it had been Daniel Bryan versus Brock Lesnar, Roman Reigns versus Brock Lesnar, whoever, they're still going to order the pay-per-view or subscribe to the network. They're going to watch WrestleMania 31. Now, from a fan standpoint, the past few weeks of Raw have not been that great for the build-up of the pay-per-view event of the year. We're talking about WrestleMania. It itself is a household name. This is they don't call it the granddaddy of them all anymore, but it is the Night of the Immortals, where men become legends, women become legends that night. And the build-up itself to the pay-per-view has been lackluster in my opinion, but at the end of the day, when it's all said and done, people are still going to watch this pay-per-view, and in my opinion, this could be the most watched WrestleMania of all time.
Oh, so that's some nice, interesting points. And something I wanted to point out, although the build-up, especially for the main event, for Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns has been lackluster, and just for the simple fact that Brock has limited dates, people are, like you mentioned, are going to order this pay-per-view. It's like the Super Bowl. It's the Super Bowl of wrestling, like it's been called a lot of times. Me, as not so much a sports fan outside of wrestling or anything like that, I don't necessarily watch football season all year long, but when it comes Super Bowl time, I try to make it a point to watch the Super Bowl just because it's the most important game of the year. And it's like you said, WrestleMania, it's its brand name. It's the granddaddy of them all, although they don't call them that anymore. So, despite everyone not being so satisfied with the main event and the lackluster build, I do feel WrestleMania is still going to be successful, just for the simple fact of you're going to have fans that don't watch wrestling all year long, and just because it's WrestleMania, order a pay-per-view, you are ordering the network. Because, like, I know for years past, like, just for example, WrestleMania 27, my cousin ordered at my aunt's house and we went and watched it. He probably didn't watch wrestling all year long or order a pay-per-view all year long, but when it came WrestleMania time, by golly, he was going to order WrestleMania. So you're going to have a lot of fans who, you're going to have those watchers who are off and on or bandwagon, I'm trying to find the right word, that will be engaged in WrestleMania and order WrestleMania, and there's a lot more of that segment of the audience than I feel the true hardcore wrestling fans that are upset about what has gone on at WrestleMania. So I do feel WrestleMania, to beat the horse to death, will be successful just because it's simply the fact that it's WrestleMania.
Absolutely.
Okay, so that's all the time we have left in this segment. We'll be back right after this with our favorite segment, Rapid Fire. So we'll be back right after this.
Attention all Power of Pro Wrestling listeners. You now can show support for your favorite podcast by donating today on our Patreon page. By donating, you can get early access to our YouTube exclusives and the podcast before the public, along with other great content. You can donate today via debit or credit card or via PayPal. Go and check it out today at patreon.com/PPWP.
Hi everyone, I'm Chris Heineken, known as Cornbread. I'm the voice of Out of Control Wrestling, inviting you to experience OCW in 2 ways. Flatlander, 609 Southeast Gibson Street in Hoxie, Arkansas, with a $6 entry fee. As a bonus, it's a national taping. Or you can watch us every single Sunday night at 11 p.m. Eastern in syndication and YouTube, and also Tuesday nights the replay on YouTube at 11 Eastern. If you're not watching us, you ain't out of control. We'll see you then. This is Cornbread Chris Heineken. You're listening to the Power of Pro Wrestling Podcast.
And welcome back to the Power of Pro Wrestling Podcast. This is our third segment. It's Rapid Fire.
Fire!
Fire!
Fire! Fire!
Fire!
Fire!
Fire!
Oh!
Ooh, see? I won this time. Can't beat the host. But for this Rapid Fire segment, our topic is going to be potential Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal winners. Now, as you know, last year at WrestleMania 30, they had the inaugural Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal, and it was won by Cesaro. So what I'm going to do for you, Kevo, is I'm going to give you a list of names, and I want you to tell me if you think they are going to potentially win the Andre Memorial Giant Battle Royal and why you think they will.
Oh,
so,
that's going to be fun. Let's go.
It's going to be fun. So let me get my names pulled up, and we will get started. So I'm going to start you off with an easy one. Let's start with The Miz.
Ooh, I'm going to have to go with no.
Okay, so you don't think The Miz is...
Well, he's being pushed right now. I love the whole angle with Mizdow, but no, not the winner of the match, no.
Yeah, I agree. He won't be the winner of the match just from the simple fact of Mizdow. So let's go with Sin Cara.
Sin Cara, oh my goodness. No, absolutely not.
Yeah, I agree, Sin Cara. I just don't see him winning the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal. Let's go with... Since it's Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal, let's go with Big Show.
Big Show? Ooh, that's the possibility. I'm going to have to go with maybe.
I definitely could see him win the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal. I thought he was locked for last year, so I'm hoping that he might win it this year just for the simple fact of it's a Giant Battle Royal. He's a Giant, so I agree, yes, there. Let's go with another big guy. How about Ryback?
Ryback. They are pushing him again. I'm going to have to go with a possibility of definitely maybe on this one.
Okay, yeah, I agree with Ryback as well. Is a definite maybe. Let's go with Fandango.
Fandango. How about no?
Yeah, I don't see Fandango winning the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal. He's not really been pushed here lately. He did the whole thing with the Bonnie. It's been lackluster. So, I mean, I don't really see him winning.
He's going to be two-stepping right over the top rope.
Yeah, I agree there. Let's go with the American Patriot, We the People, Jack Swagger.
Swagger... No. There's no real reason for him to win the match. And this is a big match for WrestleMania. I'm going to have to go to no.
Okay, yeah, I definitely agree. A definite no on Swagger now. Let me go with this guy. How about Eric Rowan?
Eric Rowan. You know, when he comes to the ring, the fans are not really engaging in him. We need some backstory to who he is, why he is what he is. Winning the match would definitely give him that push that he needs, but I just don't see him winning.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I don't really see him winning. And so that's all the time we have left for our rapid fire segment. So,
all right.
I want to thank you for joining me, Kevo. Now, I think there's something you wanted to say to our audience before we went off the air. So, kind of, you want to give them your Twitter, your Facebook, stuff like that, in case they want to follow you?
Sure. Well, if for anyone involved in weight loss, fitness, you want to get in shape, lose 10 pounds, 100 pounds, you can follow me at beachbodycoach.com/beastmodekev. And you can follow my weight loss journey. You can order P90X, Insanity, 21-Day Fix, programs like that. If you want to follow my weight loss journey and wrestling journey, you know, I'm a huge wrestling fan, as you know. Instagram at BeastModeKev.
Okay. Hey, well, I want to thank you for coming on the show, Kevo. It's been my pleasure for having you. This has been Robert Rad for...
This is Kevin Lancaster signing off on the Power of Pro Wrestling podcast. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, well, it's been my pleasure. And just a reminder before we do go off the air, we do have a Patreon page, guys, that you can support this podcast. It's patreon.com/PPWP. And this has been Robert Redd for the Power Pro Wrestling podcast, signing off.